So I lived in Jerome, Arizona for a while. It's up on the side of a mountain. It was a real famous ghost town. Now it's $1 million properties, $1 million views. Probably should have moved there. I could have paid rent for a few months. Instead, I towed a van out and well, anyway though, while I was up there in Jerome, Jerome's most famous resident is the singer from Tool, Maynard. And there's a certain amount of people who come through town that are known as Maynard stalkers. And we were where I was staying. A girl stayed with us for a little while. This black girl who had been a stripper down in southern Arizona, near Maynard's vineyards, one of his vineyards. And as the story goes, no one seemed to say she was lying or wrong. As the story goes, he hooked up with this girl, and even wrote one of his songs about her. And she was still just, she just loved him. So she came to town just on the off chance they'd bump into each other. She didn't know how to get a hold of him. So she was out there with these yellow gloves, picking up trash on the highway. Ah. Well, after a couple of weeks, and everybody was like, "She's a Maynard," like my friend. She was, hoops. She was like, she didn't want to say it. She was like, that girl, she's a Maynard stalker. Yeah, I was like, I know. Well, after a couple of weeks, Richard was like, okay, we gotta get this girl out of here. He wanted me to take her over to Flagstaff, because apparently I realized she had a storage unit there. Just get her out of town, get it time to move along. And I was like, heartless, yeah, sure, take my gas, I'm there. And he felt for it. He's a paradox. On one hand, he is hands down one of the toughest people I've ever met. One of the toughest people I've ever met. Dude's big, but you wouldn't want to see him on his mean side for sure. Like, that guy is for real. And but he also has this smile, this childlike thing that's priceless. And he has a really compassionate heart, which, like I say, it's a bit of a paradox given his nature. So he was feeling a little sad for this girl because she was in love. I was like, yeah, I'll take that girl. Get her up on out of here. So we're going. And between Flagstaff and Sedona is a spring that's very famous at the top of a mountain. And a lot of locals there will stop there regularly and fill up all their water. So I had heard about this, and I said, well, yeah, fill up my water jug. Why not? Who doesn't want some magic water? So we stop, and I had to pee so bad. And I'm like, I'll just go over here and pee a little bit. And I got a real clear message from the fairies. Don't pee so close to the spring. And it wasn't like, some bubbling water. It was like in a faucet thing. And it was a good, 30 yards, 20, 30 yards away. I wasn't like right up on it. But I was like, this will be all right. So I pee and I turn around, and I was wearing jeans at the time. Something I guess I don't do that often, but I was wearing jeans. And I turn around and just bash my shin on this stick sticking out of a log. And even though I had jeans on, it gave me a good old scratch. Whatever. Go about my business. Well, it got infected. And it was like, I'm maybe a little bit of a hypochondriac or whatever, but no, I'm also really smart about my body and vigilant. And it was a really kind of a strangely persistent infection. And Richard, he had actually lost a piece of his thumb to a skin infection before he moved up there and became a tattoo shop owner. And so it definitely wasn't from him. I mean, it had been way long, but it was just kind of on my mind. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, so I took a bath with some salt, and it was kind of gross. I ripped that infection out and it healed, but I was like, oh my gosh. But then after that, every little cut I would get infected. And it was actually a little scary. To the point where I went down the mountain and went to a doctor and got oral antibiotics for skin infection, which after the entire week of taking them, it was still, not everything was cleared up. Thankfully, I watched a video on colloidal silver and some actual studies that had been done with this company, and I put some colloidal silver on them, and they healed. Whether or not they would have healed without that, I don't know, but they did heal. And but after that, I tell you what, I had to be really vigilant with every little cut because it seemed like every little scratch I would get an infection. And it wasn't just like some little thing that would go away. It was a persistent sort of infection. So I was using Neosporin, and this went on for quite a while. I mean, like, I wasn't having like every little scratch get infected, but I had to be vigilant with any cut. If it did get infected, it was like it wouldn't just go right away. It would like I'd have to pay attention. So if fairies tell you not to pee near a spring, don't. But anyway, so I had pulled a tendon in my finger several years before, and I knew from experience that Comfrey was a great medicine. And I went to it was here in Las Vegas. I went to the Herbally Grounded, and they had a Comfrey salve. It was kind of expensive, but I'm like, whatever. So I got this stuff, and I was putting it on my finger for the tendon. And then, you know, here and there I'd have cuts or whatever, and I'd put it on there. It seemed okay. And a couple times I had little infection things, and I tried it, and boom. It just dried the stuff up right away. It just cleared it up. And so I started using it on more and more, like, questionable things. And, like, oh my gosh. It has comfrey, plantain leaf, not like the banana, but like an herb, plantain leaf, beeswax, and olive oil. 4 ingredients. And the stuff isn't even in the same class as Neosporin as far as its effectiveness. It is so superior to, and it's like, you know, it doesn't have all these weird chemicals. Because, you know, Neosporin might work somewhat, but like this stuff works. It's the best thing ever. In fact, my one lady friend here, she has the formula for that salve, and she's like, "Oh, I'll give it to you." Lady down there will give you the formulas. Thinking about just marketing it for tattoo healing because it is so superior to anything. Now, you know, given the FDA and the way that laws are, you can't just say, "Oh, it'll cure every infection." But I'll tell you what, man, or people, if anybody out there has persistent infections, or I'd say even MRSA probably, like this stuff is really, really effective. It's a complete godsend. I tell you what, if it was the end of the world tomorrow, the first thing I would do is go to Herbally Grounded and buy it all of it. I mean, I've made some before, but I tell you, that stuff works so good, it's worth the money just to have it. Although, I'll tell you what, sometimes I go in there and like one jar will be separated, like bands of separation. And I've even told the clerks, I'm like, this one's kind of funny. Oh, it's the same, it doesn't matter, it's okay. I don't think it is the same, I don't think it is okay, it should be all mixed up. So, if you go to Herbally Grounded for the green salve, just look on the side and make sure it's not all separated. Otherwise, pay the money. It's absolutely 100% worth it. There's other brands out there that have both of those ingredients, the plantain leaf and the comfrey, but a lot of times they'll also have chickweed and some other stuff, and I've just never found them to be, the ones I've tried, to be quite as effective. So, and it's not that the brand Herbally Grounded is the, I mean, because it's a store, it's their house brand. They make it here in town. I don't know if they ship it, but I think any comfrey plantain leaf healing salve will be effective. But I'm telling you, this stuff is so much better than Neosporin. It's not even in the same. It's not even in the same class. It's way superior. And yeah, that's all.